Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here. And as we see another approaching COP event, COP30, it's set to begin in Brazil right away. We are also seeing some very interesting news regarding Bill Gates, who, of course, has been one of the top people out there in the world pushing the climate agenda. Bill Gates makes a major shift away from the climate change doomsday outlook. Many of you may have heard about this alongside 893 other companies that are ditching the climate initiative. But there's more to this than meets the eye. What exactly is he planning? Why would he be moving away from the climate movement? We're going to go into that and more today, and what that means for you, because again, they utilize all of these things as a litmus test to bring in the ultimate agenda that they want to push forward, which of course is the digital ID system, which they're moving fast on, my friends, at this moment. So we're going to go into this and more today, my friends. Before we do, I urge people to check those links below and get prepared today. Outside of the digital system, outside of the CBDC, central bank digital currency system, before you end up on food rations, I urge people to ensure their wealth today. Go and check out firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ it has to be that exact link. No other link will work. It has to be that link where you could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, palladium, or you could hold that gold or silver in your hand, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system, and schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez, and you'll get a complimentary investors package with that as well. Just let him know in the comments of the form that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. This is very important for all of you out there. We do a lot of videos with Mark. He's very much awake, and we've been tackling a lot of issues that are facing us right now regarding the financial system and how they're bringing in this digital system. As of recent, we've done videos like warning banks will fail, what happens in the days that come after a bank collapse, because they are all bankrupt, as well as our video on the fact that we're seeing huge levels of poverty growing and what that leads to. Also, the historic silver shortage and cashless bank runs. And of course, something that pertains to our video today, 86 million bank accounts shut down. Why were they shut down? Well, they were shut down in Vietnam because people didn't submit to the biometric digital ID system there. This is being built up fast, my friends. Let's get into this. COP30 is set to begin in Brazil. What to know? Well, what to know is that they will be planning how they will further enslave the population utilizing the climate agenda. I think we've seen this enough times. I think we also know Brazil is symbolic in this, because Brazil is where in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, they came up with Agenda 21, the depopulation agenda and a climate control system, which then morphed into eventually Agenda 2030. But this is all happening at a strange time. A lot of people are pushing back against the climate stuff. You don't see the average person anymore screaming in the streets about how, the ocean's going to flood New York City by 2009. Bill Gates, Al Gore. We don't see that anymore. We don't see Ted Kennedy going crazy. Not Ted Kennedy. I always say that Ted Turner. Ted Turner. I always mix them up. Well, they both they both probably have some ghosts in their closet. Ted Kennedy, of course, is dead. But Bill Gates, all these people have been pushing this agenda for a very long time. Bill Gates makes a major shift away from the climate change doomsday outlook. So how did he do that? Well, Bill Gates has significantly shifted his public stance on climate change, declaring that it will not lead to humanity's demise and criticizing the so-called doomsday outlook as counterproductive. Well, he's one of the main people behind it. He's a guy who called for spraying the skies with heavy metals in order to reflect the sunlight. Also, he wanted to block out the sun. Also, he wanted to force people into this agenda with mandates. And that was only like in the last year he was saying a lot of this stuff. So what changed? Well, it says in a blog published on 28th October 2025, Gates argued that while climate change poses serious challenges, especially for the world's poorest populations, it should not be prioritized over immediate efforts to combat disease, poverty, and improve quality of life. There we go. Well, what kind of thing is he doing to stop disease? Well, we already know what he's doing with that, and we know why he's wanted in several countries for that. He's considered a criminal in multiple places. And let's not forget what he did to India with polio injections. But anyway, let's continue on here. It said he urged a reallocation of resources towards interventions with the greatest impact on human welfare, such as vaccines and agricultural development. And see, and the agricultural development involves GMOs. It involves takeover of farmland, which also leads to the destruction of the supply chain, because we already know Bill Gates is one of the biggest owners of farmland in the United States, but doesn't use most of it. Again, this is all part of the agenda. Pay attention, my friends. This all connects. And he says he also called for a new focus on human well-being rather than solely on emissions targets or temperature rise. So, you know, it would be better if everyone was placated on drugs playing video games, as Yuval Noah Harari said that he dreams of. Everyone in their house, you own nothing. You are happy, as the World Economic Forum says. And of course, something that we're seeing being worked on from both the left side of the paradigm and the right side of the paradigm. The left side uses the climate stuff. It uses speech, like what they call hate speech. The right uses migration and crime, and they also use what they call hate speech, but they both have a different view of it. I don't believe either exists, but of course, that allows them to bring in biometrics, and that allows them to bring in restrictions on the bank account. The United Nations Pact for the Future, which was signed by 193 countries back in the autumn of 2024, called for, and by the way, your country signed on to this, says that basically you are able to be shut down, your bank accounts able to be shut down, you are able to be forced into a social credit system and be rationed food based on your stance on things, including criticizing climate policy, but also like if you are considered a migrant, or if you are in the face of an emergency declaration, which they can utilize any crisis that they create in order to do just that. So again, this all comes together. 193 countries signed on to that. Do not think for a second that they won't use that. It correlates with in Saskatchewan, Canada, they have the Emergency Planning Act, sections 18 and 18.1, which allows them to destroy your home, imprison you, force you into rations, and do whatever they want with you, essentially. Kidnap your kids, whatever. Horrible stuff. That's already signed into law. Now, 893 companies are also ditching this climate initiative and calling for a return to economic rationality. But what they're really doing is they're saying, okay, look, sit on your hands a bit longer. We normalize you to this technocratic approach that we've been pushing for a long time. We did our part. Now we are going to move into a technocratic monetary system to solve the problems that we created in the first place, utilizing this insane climate policy agenda where we ignore real pollution, by the way, and promote ideas of depopulating humans because apparently we're the carbon they want to erase. It says nearly 900 companies, including dozens of large international corporations, have quietly withdrawn from the Science Based Targets Initiative, SBTI, reports Blackout News. The move is being touted as an overdue return to economic common sense. And a big part of this is just the political climate policies that ignore technical and financial limitations, and they end up jeopardizing long-term economic viability and weakening global competitiveness. Well, no kidding. And people will say, well, this is just Trump. He's got Bill Gates on his side. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? The presidents are all puppets. Bill Gates is very much in tune with who has blackmail on who and what he can deliver, because he's hated by the left and the right, what he can push forward through different politicians on both sides, including people like Elon Musk, who, by the way, they fight all the time online. It's all a show. Elon Musk says he wants to finish the job of his grandfather, Joshua Haldeman, who started the Technocratic Party to create a world government created based on technocracy. And well, he's got this $1 trillion deal now. Yeah, someone so anti-establishment suddenly gets $1 trillion deal, really. And of course, is bringing in X money, which is working with Visa card. He's bringing with X. He's using machine learning to see what everyone is saying all the time and saying more controversial things. And what you like, your likes are private because they are utilizing that because they think people will like things that are more controversial outside of being seen more often. And then they could utilize that. Private messages, machine learning based on what you say publicly and privately, as well as the fact that with this X money system, they're also registering X as a bank. And of course, he is creating a social credit algorithm on it. We already know that. If you say something negative, you could be shut down. And of course, this is the same guy who wants to put chips in your brain attached to a Pentagon-funded mesh network and works with the guys with like Peter Thiel and Alex Karp over at Palantir to create a master database All of these things are connected. So, oh, Bill Gates is pushing back a little bit against some climate policies that he's been pushing for years. Think a little bit deeper, my friends. 100,000 rainforest trees likely to have died in vain as COP30 faces brutal net zero reality. Yeah, well, Bill Gates just 1 year ago was saying that he wants to bury 73 million acres of trees, or it might have been 72 million acres. Either way, both are insane in order to stop climate change. So that was like a year ago. He doesn't change his mind after a couple decades all at once for no reason whatsoever. I've talked about this a couple years ago. Climate lies. Top climate scientists say they were ordered to cover up the truth that Earth's temperature hasn't risen in 15 years. Yes, and we've actually also seen how they manipulate the data by collecting temperatures in water in a bay rather than in the ocean, which they usually did, or gathering temperatures at surface level instead of 10 feet off the ground, which they usually do, in order to gain a more a hotter temperature, so they could constantly every year say it's the record temperatures. Now, this hasn't stopped like the continued push. Keir Starmer, my message is that the UK is all in. You don't meet a challenge like climate change by standing still. You do it by embracing change, embracing the opportunities, and doing it together. This is a truly collective endeavor. Keir Starmer says this in Brazil at COP30. Now, this connects in a moment. I'll show you. But this is as Bill Gates, utilizes this agenda to build what is now a digital ID system in places like Sierra Leone, where they have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation pushing their digital ID forward. It's been there for a couple of years now. They've been checking in with it, and essentially, you cannot get a job, you cannot, buy a car or rent a car, you can't have a license, you can't have a home, you can't have a job, you can't do anything, you can't have a bank account without having a digital ID. And similarly, in places like Kenya, they use the carbon credit system as a way to do this, where if you don't have this digital ID and carbon credit, you can't access food, which again, the OGEC people there suffered greatly from. This is Bill Gates' system with none other than the World Bank Group pushing forward this digital ID blueprint. It's all available online. This is happening as a UK government nudge unit was working with banks to implement a social credit system disguised as a carbon guilt trip tracker, with people like Professor Suzanne Michie, who worked on the COVID stuff, pushing this forward. Again, all a litmus test. And back to Starmer, as he still pushes the climate stuff. Starmer lays out vision for much criticized digital ID scheme. It's a mandated digital ID, and he's bringing them in for children as well as a separate system right away. And they say, oh, it's voluntary. You just can't access anything in life without it. Then it's not voluntary, then, is it? It's coercive. And that's the nicest word I could possibly find for it. And he says, you will be cut out of society if you don't do it. Do it now or else. Absolute puppet tyrant. Absolute scumbag. But again, he's pushing that climate stuff. He pushes this. We have the carbon guilt trip trackers. We have them in Canada as well. We have Real ID being pushed forward across the board as well. Real ID becoming a major issue. The Genius Act, CBDCs, the digital euro launching last month. We have all of this happening simultaneously, and it is not a coincidence. We can't forget what the World Economic Forum said in 2022, and it's something that I talked about back in years and years and years ago. I said they'd use a pandemic in order to bring in these passports, in order to bring in these digital ID systems. But I said that about 10 years ago. But one thing that was clear in the beginning of 2020 to me was that they were going to utilize this in order to bring in the passports, which we all know about, and of course, then bring in digital IDs. Remember, Real ID was announced to come out in August of 2020. And then they actually pushed it forward because they were using this other thing that we all know well as a litmus test. Another part of their AI machine learning, which AI will be in charge of this. Imagine HAL 3000 doing all this. Now, fast forward to 2022 on a page called My Carbon on the World Economic Forum's website. They said that COVID was just a litmus test for compliance to bring in a technocratic world order, 15-minute cities, all these different things. They said it themselves. I'm just a messenger here. This is the same group that claims that they control most governments worldwide, and they openly brag about it and show off their photos of them with all these politicians from every sect of mankind all over the world. Now we have the climate policies being pushed and pushed and pushed, and we have the 15-minute cities being built. And eventually they'll just be prison cities, and they might even let go of the climate policies to some degree, though I still think they're going to double down on that in a lot of ways as far as propaganda goes. As I've seen for myself in Oxford, UK, when I spent like a month in Oxford watching them install this 15-minute city and watching the insane restrictions that were happening and how they were fining people insane amounts of money if they accidentally turned down a street that they always went down their whole life, and how businesses were screwed because people couldn't park or anywhere near the business anymore, and people in wheelchairs were screwed, and how people who usually had a 5-minute commute had 15 to 20-minute commutes because they were stuck in traffic idling, where they were then taxed for idling. I mean, it's so insane, and that's just all the more reason. Oh, it's more convenient than to stay home. Tyranny comes under the guise of convenience, and that's what they'll do. Everything will be deliverable. Everything will be in your home. Everything will be easy. You'll be placated on drugs, playing video games, as Yuval Noah Harari said, which Elon Musk says AI is going to destroy the world and destroy humanity and destroy all jobs. 42% of jobs will be gone and given to AI in the next few years. But he says, don't worry, I'm developing all AI. And by the way, you can just stay home and you can have UBI, Universal Basic Income, which is a tenet of the technocratic Marxists over at the World Economic Forum, part of the Great Reset. All of these things connect. So they will shift out of the climate stuff again into safety, terrorism or war, civil unrest, whatever manufactured event they have. An economic collapse. We need to be here for your security under national security orders, or to keep you safe, or to keep you secure, or to keep you free, to keep you fed, to keep things convenient. Don't worry, my friends. Bow to us, because we are the ones that created the problems in the first place, but we're the only ones that can help. No, they are not. You as an individual can withdraw from the system very easily, not entirely, but to a greater degree to which that you would not feel you are succumbing to the pressure of this technocratic system to such a great length. It is very, very possible for you guys to not depend on the banks, which is one of the main ways they get you, because they depend on the dependence of the masses. If you're dependent, then you aren't following the path of humanity itself. Humanity is based in individual responsibility, self-responsibility, individualism, independence. We can't, I know these days, just jump from growing up with all these conveniences and electronics and all these different things and government programs and the grid and all that kind of stuff, jump right into, burying ourselves in the mud in the middle of the woods. Obviously not. However, we can knock off a huge degree of the problems that keep us in the system, which they will use against us later. They will lock you out of your bank account. They'll say, if you want that money, you will have to follow our command. And when you follow our command, it also means if you want good social credit or carbon credits or whatever it might be on your digital ID attached to your CBDC in your 15-minute city, you will have to snitch on your neighbor if you see them doing anything that we wouldn't want them doing. If you see something, say something. They will say Big Brother will be watching you. And why? Because you kept all your money in the bank. You depended on grocery stores for all your food. This is how they get you. And people are tired of me saying this to say it's fear mongering. I say, no, we need to know the truth. We need to know the negatives to make positives. If we don't face this down, we will succumb to it. We will be left behind in the reset. We cannot just be talking about, as individuals, I don't like using the word we so much, but as individuals, just talking about how much we hate all this and it's all bad and it's so scary, and then not do anything about it. Once we know the truth, we must be the change. As my slogan here at World Alternative Media has been since day one, find the truth, be the change. And there are real world ways to be the change in your life right now. People will laugh. Oh, well, how much money you making? I'm like, pretty much nothing. The idea is that I trust Mark Gonzalez. He's a really good guy. He's awake. He's aware. He's been doing this for a long time. And he's someone that I know personally, that I've known for many years in person, and I can trust. And that's why I tell people to go and check out things like in the description. We have firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ has to be that exact link. No shortened version of that. It has to be the full one. It's in the description. There's shortages of silver. There's shortages of gold. We're looking at a dollar that will eventually revert to its true value of zero. So there's no saying how high gold will go and what how we're going to be judging that value. We know, and this isn't investment advice because it's wealth insurance. We know that these things are going to seriously insure people's wealth versus what is to come. Because again, we have this rush to silver and gold right now, which is historic. It's nowhere near a high because we have to understand where the dollar is going to understand where gold and silver is going. And again, we're seeing bank runs. We're seeing the destruction of banks. We're seeing them push for digital. We're seeing them try to put you in that digital prison. If you go to firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/, you could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. Schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez, and you'll also get a complimentary investors package, and let him know in the comments of the forum that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. Again, this is all about making sure people are prepared for what comes next, because this isn't about some investment. Look at how gold and silver have carried their value over the last few thousand years. You could buy pretty much the same with it as you could back then. What about the dollar? Remember what you could buy with pennies when you were a kid? Well, no longer. We have to understand how this is all going to move. And again, another big part of that, the world's first currency, food. I urge people to very seriously think about stocking up today. And if you already have, stock up more. We have heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. There's also freeze-dried food, of course. Use code WAM, W-A-M, and you'll get 5% off as well as free shipping on your order. That's WAM. And again, this is something that allows you to not depend on grocery stores. Another way they expect you to be dependent on them. So for yourself and your family, do this. Fight inflation by doing this now as well. You could pay over time. They accept gold and silver. This is a good company. They actually have the organic food, not the crap that they sell at Home Depot and survival kits that's going to make you sick later on down the road. Anyway, we have a lot of options. Ditching your doctor, which you can find our link for below at www.livelongerformula.com/wham. We can't talk about that much on here because we're posting this video on YouTube, which means that it'll be taken down. It could be taken down anyway, but nonetheless, we got to be careful with the ones we post on YouTube. Another reason to subscribe on Rumble and BitChute at World Alternative Media so you can see all of our videos. But again, another one for health, very important going forward, so they can't control you with that either, is you can check out vni.life/wham, WAM. You can get a bunch of super supplements there, and you could also get 15% off if you use code WAM15, WAM15. Again, a great example, it's Protovite, 100 plus vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. Absolutely amazing stuff. Look at this. I mean, this is a before and after. This is before. The circulatory issues, red blood cells with no negative charge, white blood cells are tiny. The blood flow is awful. Look at 5 minutes after taking Protovite. Red blood cells are moving fast, restored negative charge, and white blood cells are 4 times their size. You can't do this with anything else in 5 minutes. Not that I've found anyway. This is usually something that takes a month to do. So go and check that out in the description. And as we close this off, we appreciate any help we can get. We have gogetfunding.com, Patreon, and Subscribestar. Thank you to those who've helped support us. We could not survive without you. We truly mean it when we say you guys are the heartbeat of independent media. And without you, I don't know where we'd be right now, because we've been fighting a big fight lately. We've fought bankruptcy. We've fought lawsuits. We fought a lot of stuff that made it almost impossible for us to survive. My bank accounts were shut down. You guys are what keeps us alive. And if you pledge $4.99 or more on Patreon, Subscribestar, or X at World Alt Media, we'll give you exclusive content, including private video messages to you if you ask us any questions, and give us some examples of what you want to see. We're going to be posting a bunch on here right away for subscribers only, and we have some cool announcements coming up on there as well. We have a PayPal address, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com. That's ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com. It's in the description. We also have a Bitcoin address that you could scan on the screen here, or check out in text form in the description of the video. We have a Cointree link with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in if you please, including privacy coins. And of course, we have our Teespring store with a bunch of merchandise that helps support us as well. You can find us on Telegram, Band.video, though Band.video won't be around much longer. It's going down because of the stupid lawsuit. But we're also on Rumble, Brighteon, BitChute, Odyssey, all at World Alternative Media. We're on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv at Josh Sigurdson. And we're on the Bad Guys TikTok and Instagram, World Alternative Media, Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms except for Spotify, where, of course, we're banned. Hit that like button, share in social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already, my friends. And until next time, live freely, live by example. That's what it's all about. Don't fall for the tricks of the establishment when they're pulling both sides against each other. They have controlled opposition. We need to withdraw ourselves from that system. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.